Hello there. Welcome back to M. Price Can Read and the third installment of M. Price, which is me, you hopefully know by now, reading some Charles Bukowski. Today we are going to read some poems that I especially like that I have dog-eared, Dog City Never Sleeps, from Betting on the Muse. And as you may see, I'm only halfway through the book, so after we read some of those poems that I do like, we're going to read some poems I've never even seen. The main departure from this third edition of this Bukowski reading and the last two is not drinking beer with this one, much to the disappointment, I'm sure, of Bukowski. But instead, I'm drinking some tea. And now that I actually think about it, because I just don't drink that much anymore. Now that I think about it, I actually have some little mini bottles of cooking wine that I bought because I'm going to make some pasta sauce tomorrow. And I was like, well, I do get 4 little bottles of it, so I guess I could just shoot one up in front of you. Which, I don't know, depending on how we feel, we might get there. Who knows? I probably shouldn't. that would make Bukowski proud, drinking mini wines. Anyway, let's just start with some poetry before this totally dissolves. For those maybe unfamiliar with Bukowski, for those who haven't watched the first 2 videos, which you definitely should go back and do. He is this German-born guy, came to America, wasn't discovered as a poet till he was like in his 60s or something. Then worked for like 10, not even 20 years before he died. Mostly made poetry and then a few novels kind of about life on the periphery of America, about being poor, about being a lonely man, about a lot of other controversial issues, and he's not really, it depends who you talk to, whether he's viewed as like, oh, he's like a folk hero, or whether he's just horrible, misogynist, trashy drunk. I personally am more under the impression that he is a folk hero, which is probably obvious, otherwise I wouldn't have published 3 videos about his work. But I really like him. I think he's profoundly misunderstood. I think he reveals himself several times throughout his work, all over his work, and to think that he is like this evil, ne'er-do-well dude who's just trying to scrape by on controversy and irritating people is, I think, completely ignorant. And you've never looked into his work, truly, if you think that. But haters gonna hate, and ain'ters gonna ain't. They hate us because they ain't us, as they say. Anyway, I should probably get reading. Because it says M. Price can read after all, and I am indeed M. Price, so I should demonstrate that I can read. And per tradition, I am going to attempt to do my best Charles Bukowski impression while I read. Because he really does talk in this sort of monotone, but also falling sometimes and rising just a bit, but always sort of holding these notes as he talks very quietly, very slowly, almost like a weird little lower class drawl. I am Charles Bukowski, and this poem is The Pleasures of the Damned. The pleasures of the damned are limited to brief moments of happiness, like the eyes and the look of a dog, like a square of wax, like a fire taking the city hall, the county, the continent, like fire taking the hair of maidens and monsters, and hawks, buzzing in peach trees, the sea running between their claws, time, drunk and damp, everything burning, everything wet, everything fine. I'm having fun. This next poem is Those Marvelous Lunches. When I was in grammar school, my parents were poor, and in my lunch bag there was only a peanut butter sandwich. Richardson didn't have a lunch bag. He had a lunch pail with compartments, a thermos full of chocolate milk. He had ham sandwiches, sliced beef sandwiches, apples, bananas, a pickle, and a large bag of potato chips. I sat next to Richardson as we ate. His potato chips looked so good, large and crisp as the sun blazed upon them. "You want some potato chips?" he would ask, and each day I would eat some. As I went to school each day, my thoughts were on Richardson's lunch, and especially those chips. Each morning as we studied in class, I thought about lunchtime and sitting next to Richardson. Richardson was the sissy, and the other boys looked down on me for eating with him, but I didn't care. It was the potato chips. I couldn't help myself. "You want some potato chips, Henry?" he would ask. Yes. The other boys got after me when Richardson wasn't around. "Hey, who's your sissy friend? You one too?" I didn't like that, but the potato chips were more important. After a while, nobody spoke to me. Sometimes I ate one of Richardson's apples, or I got half a pickle. I was always hungry. Richardson was fat. He had a big belly and fleshy thighs. He was the only friend I had in grammar school. We seldom spoke to each other. We just sat together at lunchtime. I walked with him after school, and often some of the boys would follow us. They would gather around Richardson, gang up on him, push him around, knock him down again and again. After they were finished, I would go pick up his lunch pail, which was spilled on its side with the lid open. I would place the thermos back inside, close the lid. Then I would carry the pail as I walked Richardson back to his house. We never spoke. As we got to his door, I would hand him the lunch pail. Then the door would close, and he would be gone. I was the only friend he had. Sissies live a hard life. Another little caveat, heads up. He would commonly write from the viewpoint of Henry Chinaski. Henry Chinaski is like his alter ego, of Hank Bukowski. Much like someone else has an alter ego, whom he writes as. They write as. Anyway, usually I find these poems scattered all around, and in this case I actually found 5 of them right in a row. So this is the third one in our little series of poems that I like. This one is called Panties, which means I'm going to get in trouble for reading it. Hell, I don't know how old I was, maybe 7, and Leela lived next door to me. She was maybe 6, and one day she was standing in her yard, and she looked at me and lifted her dress and showed me her panties. Something about it looked good to me, and I stared, and then she let her dress fall back down, and she walked off. "Leela," I yelled, "come back." She didn't, but thereafter every day when she saw me, she would lift her dress and show me her panties. They were a nice clean white and fitted snugly. Then she would let her dress fall back down and walk off again. One day, I was in the backyard, and 3 kids I had never seen before came running in and started swinging fists at me. I surprised myself. I fought back well. In fact, I gave 2 of them bloody noses, and they ran off. But the bigger kid remained, and we kept fighting. He began to slowly wear me down. He backed me up against the fence, and I was catching 3 punches to each one I threw. His hands were much larger than mine, and he was very strong. Then there was a dull thump. Somebody had hit him over the head with something, a large bottle. It was Leela. She hit him again, and he ran from the yard, yowling and holding his head. "Thanks, Leela," I said. "Show me your panties." "No," she said. She walked back to her house and went inside. I saw her many times after that in her yard. I'd ask her, "Show me your panties, Leela," but she always said no. Then her family sold their house and moved away. I never quite understood what it all meant, and still don't. Comment down below to guess what tea I'm drinking. I don't know. You figure it out. Oh, there's a W. Price hair in there. That's a poem I particularly liked. I even included a little bit of it in Please Feel Bad I'm Alive, believe it or not. The dead flowers of myself. Yeah, it sounds like something I would like. Bulls strut in pinwheel glory. Rockets stun the sky. But I don't know quite what to make of the dead flowers of myself. Whether to dump them out of the bowl or press them between these blank pages and go on. Well, all grief comes down to hard death, and the weeping finally ends. Thank the God who made it. I don't know why drinking stuff always makes me like hiccup and burp, and I don't know, man, but I'm gonna read that one again because I do really like it. Bulls strut in pinwheel glory, rockets stun the sky, but I don't know quite what to make of the dead flowers of myself. Whether to dump them out of the bowl or press them between these blank pages and go on. Well, all grief comes down to hard death, and weeping finally ends. Thank the God who made it. The next one I was obligated contractually to mark down, the fifth one in our series. Well, you call this a series. And this is Me Against the World, because it was just Poctober, but it doesn't mean that Poctober isn't coming again next year, Poctober 2025. But this is Me Against the World. When I was a kid, one of the questions was, would you... Sometimes I forget these, okay, and I always kind of joke that one of the reasons why I love writing so much is I write and I curate what I write directly to what I enjoy, what I think is funny or interesting or whatnot. And I have this memory like where I forget a lot of things, even stuff that I made. So when I go back and I like reread or edit some of the stuff that I wrote, I think it's hilarious because like basically this book that was written just for me, that it's like I'm reading for the first time over and over again. Kind of like when I notate stuff that I like, I'm like, yeah, I come back to it, sometime. And then I come back to it, and it's just stuff like, just totally inane. Bukowski rambling. When I was a kid, one of the questions asked was, would you rather eat a bucket of shit or drink a bucket of piss? I thought that was easy. That's easy, I said. I'll take the piss. Maybe we'll make you do both, they told me. I was the new kid in the neighborhood. Oh yeah, I said. Yeah, they said. There were 4 of them. Yeah, I said. You and whose army? We won't need no army, the biggest one said. I slammed my fist into his stomach. Then all 5 of us were down on the ground fighting. They got in each other's way, but there were still too many of them. I broke free and started running. Sissy, sissy, they yelled. Going home to Mama. I kept running. They were right. I ran all the way to my house, up the driveway and onto the porch, and into the house, where my father was beating my mother. She was screaming. Things were broken on the floor. I charged my father and started swinging. I reached up, but he was too tall. All I could hit were his legs. Then there was a flash of red and purple and green, and I was on the floor. You little prick, my father said. You stay out of this. "Don't you hit my boy," my mother screamed. But I felt good because my father was no longer hitting my mother. To make sure, I got up and charged him again, swinging. There was another flash of colors and I was on the floor again. When I got up, my father was sitting in one chair and my mother was sitting in another chair, and they both just sat there looking at me. I walked down the hall into my bedroom and sat on the bed. I listened to make sure there weren't any more sounds of beating or screaming out there. There weren't. Then I didn't know what to do. It wasn't any good outside, and it wasn't any good inside. So I just sat there. Then I saw a spider making a web in the window. I found a match, walked over, lit it, and burned the spider. Then I felt better. Much better. Which is another reason I had to notate this poem, because as you may or may not know from this channel, the dogs and the spiders have been at war for aeons, unrecorded and recorded, both. And when you see a spider, you just gotta get rid of it, man. You just gotta. Dog City never sleeps. And I wonder what someone who has never, like if this is your first M. Price video or your first M. Price interaction, what do you think about my insane, just my complete package that I offer here? Anyway, the next poem is The Secret. Don't worry, nobody has the beautiful lady, not really. And nobody has the strange and hidden power. Nobody is exceptional or wonderful or magic. They only seem to be. It's all a trick and in a con. Don't buy it, don't believe it. The world is packed with billions of people whose lives and deaths are useless, and when one of these jumps up and the light of history shines upon them, forget it. It's not what it seems. It's just another act to fool the fools again. There are no strong men. There are no beautiful women. At least you can die knowing this, and you will have the only possible victory. Let not. Let not the people be your foundation, not the young girls, not the old girls, not the young men, not the old men, not those in between, not any of these. Let not the people be your foundation. Rather, build on sand, build on landfills, build over cesspools, build over graveyards, build even over water, but don't build on people. They are a bad bet. The worst bet you can make. Build it elsewhere, anywhere else, anywhere but on the people, the headless, heartless mass mucking up the centuries, the days, the nights, the towns, the cities, not Dog City, the nations, the earth, the stratosphere, mucking up the light, mucking up all chance. Here, totally mucking it up, now, then, tomorrow. Anything compared to the people is a foundation worth searching for. Anything. Does it sound like we're cynical or something? The sheep. The sheep. In centuries past, audiences at symphony concerts were not afraid to act out their displeasure at works which offended them. Shout out Rite of Spring, by the way, where there were actual fist fights over it. And people are like, oh, I'm gonna hashtag cancel your movie because you pissed me off. And it's you do realize Bukowski's right. Back then, people literally like beat the shit out of each other. They didn't like, the music, but whatever. In our time, I have either attended or listened to hundreds of concerts, and never have I heard an audience express even the mildest displeasure with any work. Have our musical artists improved to such an extent? Or is it the decay of courage, the inability of the mass mind to reach its own decisions, not only in the world of music, but in the other world? The next time you hear a symphony concert note, the obedient applause, the death of the bluebird, the shading of the sun, the hooves of the horses from hell, pounding on the barren ground of the human spirit. Hoof. It's going to be an interesting one. This one is writing. Often it is the only thing between you and impossibility. No drink, no woman's love, no wealth can match it. Nothing can save you except writing. It keeps the walls from falling, the hordes from closing in. It blasts the darkness. Writing is the ultimate psychiatrist, the kindliest god of all the gods. Writing stalks death. It knows no quit. And writing laughs at itself, at pain. It is the last expectation, the last explanation. That's what it is. Betting on the Muse, self-titled poem of the book. Jimmy Fox died an alcoholic. I thought it was Jamie Foxx at first, but it's not Jamie Foxx. It's Jimmy Fox died an alcoholic in a Skid Row hotel room. Bo Jack ended up shining shoes just where he began. These appear to be celebrities of the time, so for all intents and purposes, it could be Jamie Foxx. There are dozens, hundreds more, maybe thousands more. Being an athletic grown old is one of the cruelest of fates. To be replaced by others, to no longer hear the cheers and the plaudits, to no longer be recognized, just to be an old man like other old men. To almost not believe it yourself, to check the scrapbook with the yellowing pages. There you are, smiling. There you are, victorious. There you are, young. The crowd has other heroes. The crowd never dies, never grows old, but the crowd often forgets. Now the telephone doesn't ring. The young girls are gone. The party is over. And this is why I choose to be a writer. If you're worth just half a damn, you can keep your hustle going until the last minute of the last day. You can keep getting better instead of worse. You can still keep hitting them over the wall. Through darkness, war, good and bad luck, you keep it going. Hitting them out, the flashing lightning of the word. Beating life at life, and death too late to truly win against you. Now I just set my book down and go on a little rant, because I recently watched. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't like TV, but I occasionally do get roped into watching it now that I live with someone who does like it a little more. And but there's some good stuff to watch, I suppose. And one of the things we did watch was the Martin Scorsese, Fran Lebowitz, Imagine a City, or This is a City. Pretend It's a City, that's what it was. Pretend It's a City, with the sort of writer-commentator Fran Lebowitz and her experiences in New York, as well as a sort of cultural commentator and what she thinks about a lot of things. And of course, she was talking to dumbass Spike Lee. Anyone who knows M. Price knows M. Price's opinions on Spike Lee. The dumbass Spike Lee and her talking. Spike Lee was going on about sports. They were on like one of, I don't know if it was his show or some interview. Spike Lee is talking to Fran Lebowitz, and Fran was talking about how like she doesn't understand sports, and she doesn't like sports because sports, one, there's a sort of like, okay, you have a football game now. Well, the football game now is going to be the same as the football game last week, the week before that, the year before that, the decade before that, because football inherently never changes. It's always the same game. The only thing that really changes will be like the teams, the players, the coaches, whatnot. But in regards to like, oh, books can take on to new styles, new genres, different wide array of different possibilities. A sporting event will always pretty much be the same. And she was saying that like a great writer, like say Virginia Woolf, can be remembered forever, and is totally different from like a great athlete. And Spike Lee was of course defending the athlete and being like, well, yeah, isn't Michael Jordan, he's the best? Isn't Michael Jordan the greatest? And Fran Lebowitz was like, yeah, well, he is the greatest, he is the best, but that doesn't really change anything in terms of legacy, because Virginia Woolf's been dead for how many, hundreds of years, decades or whatever. Like Shakespeare's been dead for hundreds of years. Let's look at him instead. He's even longer. Shakespeare's been dead for hundreds of years, and we still perform all of his plays. We still perform all of the work that these old artists made, right? And we still think about it, and we still discuss it. And you can't have that with, say, Michael Jordan, even if he was the best, athlete, or say anyone was the best athlete ever, because you can't go back and watch old Michael Jordan games like you can read old Shakespeare plays or old Virginia Woolf books or old, John Ford films, because one, the outcome. So it's like, okay, I'm going to watch a specific game in this specific basketball tournament from 50 years ago. Well, you know who wins, you know what happens, you know how many scores each respective team will get on each respective sport. There's no, isn't the interest of the game watching to find out who wins. If you already know who wins, then why bother, why care? As well as, Michael Jordan will play for 10, 15, whatever their max years are to be athletic, and then they're just done, and they retire. They, like Charles Bukowski, kind of wrote about, they just kind of disappear into the background, but the writer lives on forever, because you can be a 90-year-old writer and still, churn stuff out, and 90 years after you were a 90-year-old writer and you're dead, people can still perform or read or experience your work, but they can't with, say, a sports icon. And then Spike Lee was like, well, you love Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali is one of the greatest athletes of all time. And she said, yes, she is, but I love him more for his political and social activism and what he did in that sphere of things. And Spike Lee was like, of course, well, isn't that a direct causation, or correlation's not causation, a direct correlation from his sporting world, because that's how he got, the name and the sort of social sway to be able to do that sort of thing. And yeah, that's right, but it doesn't really change the fact that 100 years from now, even longer after his death, will the few great boxing matches be more important, or will the work he did for social justice be more important? What's actually going to last? And I guess I've kind of in the same boat as Lebowitz and Bukowski, because it's just like, I've never really been interested in sports, because what's the appeal? I mean, okay, let's play. I know I was in basketball, so it's like, okay, sure, it's fine, it's fun, and it's a good workout. But there's other things you can do to work out, I guess, that, you may or may not enjoy more. So I'm not trying to tell anyone to, obviously don't be healthy, to, do what you want to do if it makes you happy. But just for me, like, it's like, why? It's just, the same thing, same game, same rules, same outcomes. So it's just like, don't you want to do something different? I mean, at least with a book, even if stories are, a lot of stories are structurally the same, or even any insights or histories from nonfiction books might kind of still be the same in the same realm of things. Isn't there at least more of a interest, more of a variety there? But that's just me going on a little rant in my Bukowski video. For all 100 people who watch this, or I don't know, if even that. I don't know. It's just the things I think about. I'm on Bukowski's side. Anyway, maybe someone who's really into sports can explain the appeal to me. Comment down below and tell me why I'm wrong. Met a man on the street who said, "You've kept me going for 2 years. It's really amazing to meet you." "Thank you," I answered. "But who's going to keep me going?" I asked this question before, and all I ever get back is a gentle smile. But it's a good question. They have no notion that I may consider suicide several times a week. They've read some of my books, and that's enough for them. But I only write that stuff. I can't read it. Here's a short one. Bad day. The jellyfish has a purpose. The hyena, the tick, the rat, the roach, each filled with their swollen light. My light is out. Who did this to me? I 100% do not believe in any sort of victim mentality. So the idea of oh, my light is out, who did this to me? I wouldn't apply that to my life, and I would never blame other people for any shortcomings of mine, because I know what my shortcomings are and I know how to improve them, and I've worked over them. I've worked on them over the years and whatnot. But I just think this poem is so funny because it's just he's listing all these horrible things, or perceived horrible things, and he's like, "Oh, my light is out. God, who did this to me?" It's just, I just fun picture of him, because a lot of times when he's talked about how he writes, is usually he'll just at night after a horrible day, he'll just kind of sit in his corner and just bang out something, and it'll, don't try, let the words flow through you. And I just wonder what happened on this day that he wrote this to cause this to flow through him, what kind of bad day did you have Hank, It's funny stuff. Think of it. I'm thinking of the garbage truck making a noise outside. But I am glad the garbage truck comes here, because the place we live kind of sucks, gonna be honest. There is, I guess Bukowski would like it, there's all this trash laid out outside on the sidewalks in the parking lot, and it seems to pick up. But us, who knows? There's dog shit everywhere. And granted, sometimes there's no bags in the little dog bag dispenser, but realistically, you can't get your own. You don't have your own on you if you're a dog owner. Yeah, sure, it's nice they have complimentary bags, but you can't spend a couple bucks to get your own. And so the grass is just a disaster. You can't wade too deep into the grass. You got packages stolen, and half the apartment complex smells like weed at any given time. People always yelling, it's I thought I was moving to a nice place when we moved. But we will be moving again at some point, which I would say would be responsible for a big break, but there's already going to be a big break in this anyway. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting when I finally do move to somewhere hopefully nicer, somewhere hopefully more quiet, where I can dink and dunk to my heart's desire. Anyway, this poem is, think of it. Think of it. There were fellows like Kierkegaard and Sartre who found existence absurd, who battled against anxiety and anguish, nothingness, nausea, and death hanging over them like a Damocles sword, while there are other men now, so empty of concern, that their first thought of the day is when are they going to have lunch. Granted, it could be more comfortable to live, say, as a fly, an ant, a mugwump. But as a human, just think, as a human to live lustily as millions do again and again, of course, hell is other people. The waste, all flushed away like it, like that. The garage mechanic walking toward you with dead eyes. Two things. One, hell is other people is kind of a well-known quote by Bukowski. And two, it's really interesting that you have this, block of text for the poem. And it's just thinking about, this or that. And it's all consistent with his, message of thinking about finding light and darkness, finding some kind of meaning, or finding maybe even no meaning, and attaching that no meaning as your personal meaning. And, of course, it descends into the idea of waste and fleshing away in hell as other people. But then it just ends with this little sentence, this little, not even full, complete idea. Just, the garage mechanic walking towards you with dead eyes. And it's such this weird, pseudo-apocalyptic image. Just out of nowhere, the idea of, this guy who's probably dirty, tired, he's grizzly and unkempt, unshaven, just walking towards you with dead eyes, Just it was a startling image for me, and that's why I circled it. All right, two more. The pile up. The 3-horse. By the way, he loves horse racing. I don't know if you've ever realized that from the fact that he writes about horse races like every 5th poem. The pile up. The 3-horse clipped the heels of the 7. They both went down, and the 9 stumbled over them. Jocks rolling, horses' legs flung skyward. Then the jocks were up, stunned but all right, and I watched the horses rising in the late afternoon. It had not been a good day for me. And I watched the horses rise. Please, I said inside, no broken legs. And the 9 was all right, and the 7, and the 3 also. They were walking. The horses didn't need the van. The jocks didn't need the I need the ambulance. The jocks didn't need the ambulance. What a beautiful day. What a perfectly beautiful day. What a wondrously lovely day. 3 winners in a single race. It's interesting how Bukowski doesn't latch on to the, say, traditional, conventional winner. He latches on to the 3 who get screwed, who crash and burn, but who rise up regardless and keep going on, and that they're unscathed through walking through the flames. Hank's looking out for you. Nope, we got a double. So I guess it would be a triple total. Got a dog ear up here, and then I had to do a dog ear down there to convey this next one. 12 minutes to post. As we stand there before the purple mountains in our stupid clothing, we pause, look about. Nothing changes, it only solidifies. Our lives crawl slowly, our wives deprecate us. Then we awaken a moment. The animals are entering the track. Quick sister, perfect Raj, vive la torch, Miss Leuschner, keep in peace, true to be, lose good morning. Now it's good for us. The lightning flash of hope, the laughter of the hidden gods. We were never meant to be what we are or where we are. We are looking for an out. Some music from the sun, the girl we never found. We are betting on the miracle again, there before the purple mountains, as the horses parade past so much more beautiful than our lives. I really like that last bit. The lightning flash of hope, the laughter of the hidden gods. We were never meant to be what we are or where we are. We are looking for an out. Some music from the sun, the girl we never found. We are betting on the miracle again there before the purple mountains, as the horses parade past, so much more beautiful than our lives. This is the last dog year, as the poems go. As the poems increase into the thousands, you realize that you've created very little. It all comes down to rain, the sunlight, the traffic, the nights and the days of the years, the faces. Leaving this will be easier than living it. Typing one more line now as a man plays a piano through the radio. The best writers have said very little, and the worst far too much. Oh, Hank, I wonder how much you think I've said. Is that a weird idea? The idea of like, my bookmark, yay, some biodegradable card thing, which we did plant the biodegradable part or whatever that has like loaded up with seeds that is then wildflowers or something. They're pretty neat. But what a weird idea to think like, oh, what would this dead person think of me? You know, like, whatever price. You do you, I guess. Alright, so first new poem that I've never even read. So this does not necessarily have the Emprice thumb of approval. The dog ear of approval, I suppose. Dog City Never Sleeps. Avoiding humanity. Much of my life has been dedicated to just that. Starting off strong. And still is. Even today at the track, I was sitting alone between races, in a dumb dream state, but dumb or not, it was mine. Then I heard a voice. Some fellow had seated himself right behind me. I've come where it's nice and quiet, he said. I got up, walked about 150 yards away, and sat down again. I felt no guilt, only the return of a more pleasant state of being. For decades I have been bothered by door knockers, phone ringers, letter writers, and strangers in airports and bars, boxing matches, cafes, concerts, libraries, supermarkets, jails, hospitals, hotels, motels, pharmacies, post offices, etc. I am not a lonely person. I don't want to be embraced, cajoled, told jokes to. I don't want to share opinions or talk about the weather and or etc. and etc. I have never met a lively, original, interesting soul by accident, and I don't expect to. All I have ever met are a herd of dullards who have wanted to project their petty frustrations upon me. For some time women fooled me. I would see a body, a face, a seeming aura of peace and gentleness, a cool, refreshing lake to splash in. But once they spoke, there was a voice like chalk scratching a blackboard, and what came forth as speech was a hideous and crippled mind. I lived with dozens of these. Wait, the phone is ringing now, but I have a message machine. They are leaving one. This one wants to see me. It wants to invite itself over. A reason is given, some pretense. It is hardly a worthy one. The last words are, please let me know. Why do they want to see me? I don't want to see them. Can't they sense this? Am I the only one in the world who finds being alone to be a blessing, a miracle? Must I always be kind to those who would wallow in my hours? Am I an ugly soul, unkind, unappreciative, misanthropic, a misogynist, a crackpot, a bastard, a murderer of hope? Do I torture animals? Am I without love? Do I reek of bitterness? Am I unfair? Am I the wrecking ball of dreams? Am I the devil's encore? Do I put glass in the sandbox? Am I without morals or mercy? If so, why do they want to keep seeing me? I would never want to see anybody like that, especially when I am shaving. Oh geez, there's some short stories in this one. I won't read the short story, that might take us a while. But to remember it, I'll put one half of the bookmark because I have two little pieces of paper in here, so I'll know to come back to it on my own time. Then we'll skip, because this is poetry only. The luck of the word. By the way, the short was called What Happened to the Loving, Laughing Girl in the Gingham Dress? So it can't be anything good, knowing him. Throughout the years, I have gotten letters from men who say that reading my books has helped them get through. Go on. This is high praise indeed, and I know what they mean. My nerve to go on was helped by reading Fante, Dostoevsky, Lawrence, Celine, Hampson, and others. The word raw on the page, the similarities of our hells, when it all comes through with special force, those words and what they speak. What they speak of do help get our asses through the fire. A good book can almost make an impossible existence livable for the reader and the writer. That was a good one. I'll dog-ear that one. The luck of the word. Because I believe in that too. Next one, bad form. The famous actor sat at the table with his friends and the friends of the owner of the horse, who was to run in the big race. Everybody had purchased tickets on the owner's horse. They sat together and watched the race. The owner's horse ran badly. He ran last. The tea. For those who don't know, the beer was much worse. trying to drink it and not explode. Some moments passed. Then the famous actor took his stack of tickets and tossed them down in front of the owner. They were spread there upon the white tablecloth. I no longer liked any of the movies I had seen the famous actor in. I no longer liked the famous actor. I left the table. I left the director's room. I took the elevator down and out there. I walked across the grandstand area to where the non-famous poor people were. And they were beautiful. They had faces like flowers, and I stared at them, drinking in their voluptuous normalness. Down with the rich or something. Something like that, yeah. It is interesting. People, even in my life that I've found, people with the most money get so upset anytime they have any, even just minor inconvenience. Like, grow up. Like, God, I could rant on more, but I know I shouldn't. I'd get myself in trouble. But like, the poorest people I know are also the most generous and the most understanding and empathetic. But who cares about that? Last call. This is it, sucker. The dead nightingale in your lap. The final circle around the mirage. The bones of your dreams buried. Laughter caught in the specimen bottle. The caked blood of your little paintings. The hunter sighs. The lynx huddles in the dark. Parsnip fingers grip the bottle. Old ladies mail you postcards from Illinois. As one fly circles the room and one room circles the fly. Phone messages from the persistent. Old memories crushed in your brain with hanging tongues. the hammerhead shark dressed as a nun. 2,000 years like a spider sucking at a webbed insect. The sodomized headless horse of history. The grandmother's smile, persistent madness syndrome as a spiritual occupation. Mares eating oats and oats eating me as the fleas play tambourines. Suicide as the last serenade to the curse of time. The legless spirit flung against the wall like a bottle of vinegar. The cat with 3 eyes walking through the nightmare melody. Roasted pigs that cry in the heart of a dog walking north. My aunt spitting out her paperclip sole through the open window of a 1938 Ford driving along Colorado Boulevard. Brahms talking to me as I lay a $20 bet on the 6-horse. The majesty of the club-footed duck looking for the blocked exit. The applause of the terrified masses, the last torn card upside down in the ringing of an empty room. The last bluebird flying from the burning funhouse. An apricot seed challenging the sun. The sheets of the whore raised as a flag by political centipedes. 0 times 0 times 0 times 0. The face in your mirror is love drowned alone. Eating an apple is eating yourself on a corner. Is yourself standing... Wait, what? Eating an apple is eating yourself standing on a corner. Sorry, dyslexia. The paperclip speaking, an onion more beautiful than you. Spain in your coffee cup. God, I gotta switch reels halfway through. Spain in your coffee cup. The white horse standing on the hill. The dreams stuffed in the trash and the trash stuffed in you. The beginning and the end are the same, the new gods imagined and the old gods reinvented. The human voice being the most ugly instrument. The falcon swirling and the vulture swirling and the girls dancing with eyes so blank. Everywhere the trees and plants and flowers watching us as their sadness towers tall in the mighty night. They weep and they weep and they weep. The horse running last into snow-covered mountains as Lee Post smiles and bitter people tear up their paper tickets and blame the horse and blame the life and blame the blame as the mountains weep and the cross comes down and lifts the sun, the great white shark sniffing the dark purple sea. As the mouse alone stares through its eyes at all the terror, we burn separately and together in the December of our undoing, the walking blood of our screams unrecorded anywhere, but in our singular private hells. We dance when we can. We dig for worms in coffins. We swim. We walk. We talk. We fornicate. We gag. We gargle. We fish and are fished. Hooked, caught, cleaned, fried, baked, broiled, simmered, eaten, digested, expelled. It's a long wash in and out of shore, through small lights and long darkness. The bluebird, the bluebird, the bluebird. The chair in the center of the room with nobody in it. Everything waiting for the silver sword. A piano playing somewhere, one small note at a time, a bluebird on each key. My 6 cats asleep in the other room waiting for me. Death only means something to death. It's late now, as the walls kiss me and hold me, and you and you and you. This terrible glory as the hunter himself almost wearies of the hunt, but not quite, not quite. Not quite. That was a good one. I think that's where we end. That was a really good one. I like that a lot. That was very much up my alley. Last call. A long one too. The last bluebird flying from the burning funhouse. Well, put the second bookmark in here. Bukowski. Just the best. Did I take my hat off at some point? I get maybe. Wait, did I even have my hat on this entire time? God, I don't know. I never know when I'm supposed to wear these things. I try to go for some consistency based on what series I'm doing, but whatever. That's fine. I'm here now, aren't I? I'll put on the glasses at least, that way you can't see my eyes. There we go. I'll just have my tea that's probably cold after an hour of doing this, as I revert to Bukowski's voice to just do my regular dialogue. Dog City never sleeps, I hope that you may sleep now. Yeah, it's okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed me rant and rave about Bukowski. Yeah, I think that's about it. Glad you're here. Glad you're following M. Price and my little group of people. It's a good video. Yeah, I just wanted to do one of these quick before I take another break. Do some other stuff. Got a lot to work on. Life is very busy and it doesn't let up. So that's what makes it fun. If it was all boring all the time, I guess I'd never know what to do. Anyway, I have been M. Price. This is M. Price Can Read. And I forget my intro for non-ASMR videos, or outro. I forget a lot of things, okay? As I've mentioned earlier in this video too. I didn't forget that. But, as you may or may know, Dog City never sleeps. You can sleep now if you want, if you are treating this as ASMR, but if you don't want to sleep, don't sleep. Just know that Dog City never sleeps. Also, buy my book. Or don't. You don't have